focusing a bit more on the first steps. So I say I'm an Australian manufacturer of medical products. I'm interested in engaging with China. What's my first step to find a distributor? How would I go about that?
Quite often there are industry bodies that have, I I was doing some work for a company that have a product in the petroleum remediation area. So it's, if you've got a pipeline and there's an oil spill, and these people have products that can assist you, detect and treat what do you call it, hydrocarbons in soil and that sort of thing. And I was doing a search for them, and I think we ended up with 7,000 or more just potential distributors. And so then you move back from that, and how do you actually filter something that's got a spreadsheet that's got 7,000 possibilities in terms of going to market? And so we found, and so it was a matter of getting to the people who matter, the thought leaders. And how do you find a thought leader? Well, they're generally in the sort of more important universities and hospitals and people like that. So we found this university in Qingdao, which was the University of Petroleum Studies. And we went and spoke to the professors and sort of said, who would you recommend? And so we ended up sort of with about 12 possibilities and going back to the company with sort of 4 or 5 ideas and then due diligence on each one. So, I'm not sure if that's helpful, but it's an incredibly huge, it's a large sifting process on, or triage or whatever you want to call it, but it's a process of trying to get it down to if you go for the biggest, they want too much margin and they're difficult to manage because they've got sort of policies. If you go for little ones, you never know what you're getting and they're not covering much geography. So it's coming up with a spec of what you want, and then it's a matter of talking to the people. So we used the orthopedic example before, and so you go to these people and you say, listen, what do you think of this company? Do they come and see you? You're the chair of the Orthopedic Society in China. Do they come and see you? Are their products well regarded? Do they follow through and all that sort of thing? So
Yeah.
it's not easy because everyone is a distributor in China of some sorts. The government is actually reducing the number of steps in terms of the value chain as well. These days, it's only, in some products of technology, there's a limit to the number of middlemen you're allowed to have, to the maximum of 2, I think. And so,
That's neat.
And so, yeah. So of course, in moving ahead, how do you actually get to a distributor? Yeah, you've got your usual methods of trade shows and trade missions and that sort of thing. But asking the key opinion leaders, you can't go wrong. And even if you think that they're just recommending their friends, if you have a sample of 3 or 4 people who matter, who are the top thought leaders, and generally you find the conference for that particular discipline, and who is the chairperson of that conference, and who are the people who are their rivals in the main capital areas of Chengdu and Guangzhou, etc.
Yeah.
And Shanghai and Beijing, and then if you can get to a few of those people, and they're not hard to get to, generally they want to talk to you. They want to bring new products in.
Yeah.
And I would use that method rather than just whoever turns up to a meeting. And finally, sorry. The CCPIT is kind of the China Council for Promotion of International Trade. Every acronym's 5 and starts with C in China, but they're really good. They are a government organisation, probably a little bit more government than say our Austrade, but I've always found them to be quite helpful. If you go to a city and say, we've got this product, and you go and talk to them and said, who is in your province or in your territory that does this? Quite often they'll put 5 or 6 people who manufacture or distribute or are interested in the IP of the product. And so I've always found that to be a nice alternative, using the China Austrade as well as the Australian Austrade.